Reality, Leigh Winner served in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years before she was honorably discharged in 2016. She translated Iranian and Persian language documentation for a new company after she was discharged. She had access to high security information and breached her clearance in May of 2017 when she printed out NSA documentation that stated that Russia interfered with the U.S. 2016 presidential election. Reality came out in 2023 as a reflection on the interview that Reality had with FBI agents who came to her house on June 3rd, 2017, where she was arrested and served the longest sentence under the Espionage Act of 63 months. She is meant to receive probation in 2024, where she will be under parole for 3 years. This is the longest sentence, and throughout the discovery, they did not discover that she had any more connections to other leaking information, and that she only did it to serve the American people. Now, Reality is available on HBO Max and can be seen there, and is quite the insight into what happens during interrogation and how people break down after questioning. They started off fairly slow, asking her simple questions. They took over her entire house, and then the interrogation began, where they allowed her to share what was going on and what she did. She went on to admit that she had folded a piece of paper that she had printed and was the telling card to the FBI that it was her that sent the information to The Intercept. What will happen with Reality after this, where her career can go after this, we won't know. This is all very fresh. It happened in 2017, so we won't know the reality of what will happen to her until a few more years pass. But it was very telling to see how quickly the FBI can mobilize and get information from people. When we look at what's going on in the world, it's hard to understand that we have so much trust in the world. And many people will say, oh, I don't trust anyone, I don't trust anything. And unfortunately, that is just not the truth. When we go to the grocery store, we believe the labels that say natural or cage-free, or that this is a tomato that was picked at ripeness and not sprayed chemically in a warehouse before it was brought to the store. We trust in the people that drive next to us, that they are paying attention and that they are observing what's going on, and that they are not going to veer into us and crash into us. We trust that when we elect representatives to share on our behalf and to vote on our behalf, that they're doing so with our best intentions in mind and not of those who can pay them. We believe and we trust and we hope in many people when we don't even realize it. We may not trust certain people in our lives, but we trust a majority of them. We trust that our company will send us the paycheck. We trust that this next meeting is just an actual catch-up meeting, and we trust that the people around us are telling us the truth. Because what kind of life would it be if you walked around constantly believing that the worst case scenario was going to unfold in front of you? And that is a state of anxiety that a lot of people live in. But it is mostly like, how can I prevent this? But also, how can you prevent it? What are the actual ways for you to stand in your truth and to understand what's actually going on? How can you overcome this fear and this belief that somebody is out to get you or something's going to happen that's bad? I would suggest, and this is difficult, but actually think about what those worst case scenarios are and see if you're prepared for them. If you think that at any given point in time your company's going to let you go, what places do you have set for you to overcome that issue? What can you do to prevent that from being as catastrophic as you might imagine it to be? Can you save more money now? Can you protect yourself in the future? Can you always be working on new skills? Is there other ways for you to make money? Is there ways for you to deal with this if the worst case scenario does befall you? And are you prepared to do it if the worst case scenario befalls you multiple times in just as many months? Maybe, maybe not. And the thing is, you need to be looking at these worst case scenarios and preparing yourself for it. We get into strangers' cars, when we go into Ubers, we believe that people aren't going to hurt us if we're walking around in the middle of the night or even in the middle of the day. You just never know that something might happen to you. But how can you trust the world? You can't. You don't know what that next person is thinking. You don't know if the person behind you is texting and driving and is going to run a red light and run right into you. You don't know if that person who is being weird on the street is going to come up behind you and attack you. You just simply don't know. But can you put yourself in a position to make yourself prepared for whatever might happen? The truth is you can, by thinking of these scenarios where these things could go wrong. Can you save more money? Can you be more vigilant when you're walking around? Can you be the person who's not distracted while driving? Can you actually consider what is the food that you're eating and not just blankly following somebody else? How can you take your power back in this world? And the more power you take back, the less need of trusting people you'll have. And not trusting people in the sense that, oh, this person that I'm with is automatically going to do something to hurt me, but trust in the sense that it's okay if they do, because I will be okay, because I've created the foundation and the barriers that I need to feel protected and safe in my own space. So how can you do that for yourself? How can you step back and accept that, hey, I don't know what this person's thinking, I don't know why, I don't know where, I don't know when, but I need to do stuff to protect myself at the greatest level. The truth is, no matter what happens, you have to get good with yourself and accept that whatever's going on, you can't control except for how you deal with things and how you move through the world. There's 2 books that I've read, Letting Go and In Man's Search for Meaning. Letting Go is by David R. Hawkins, and Man's Search for Meaning is by Viktor Frankl, and both of them talk about this idea that you have to trust yourself and you have to get good with yourself, and that the reality is you can't control anything except for your thoughts and for how you walk through this world and you decide to deal with it. So are you going to lay in fear and be scared to leave your house because any of these things might happen at any time, or are you going to continue to pursue living your life because you've created these measures that protect you? So how can we protect ourselves legitimately? Well, we have to look at our life through these various lenses of freedoms that we have. We have financial, physical, emotional, spiritual, and all of these freedoms are ours to protect and to work with. We need to understand that the world is there for us to enjoy and to have fun with, but it is also a place where we are going to get hurt, but it is only through those experiences that we're going to enjoy our lives. So we have to get good with being okay if somebody doesn't like us, and if somebody does hurt us, that will be okay if they don't want to be around us. We just have to continue to get through these fears in order for us to live any kind of life worth living. And then when you turn to world news and to other people's opinions, they won't weigh as heavy because you have already seen the world through these different perspectives and these different lenses, and you're making choices and decisions based off of information you have found. And then you might be asking, well, how can you trust that information that you found is the correct one? And the reality is that even when documentation that fully discloses what happens is released, that may or may not be the full truth. And we're always looking at slivers of truth at any given moment of time. When that person that you're with tells you, I'm not talking to anyone, you can only believe them at face value, unless you are choosing to look through their stuff. And even then, you might be missing things. They can easily delete stuff, or they can get rid of things. But I want you to understand that if you are ever in a moment or in a place where you feel uncomfortable or something feels off, to listen to that and to get to that place where you can actually believe those feelings and that you're not always just paranoid. You have to start learning about yourself in a variety of ways. Figure out if you like Pepsi or Coke, or if you hate soda, or if you like juice, or you only drink water. Figure out about yourself what it is that you want and what you like about the world. When you go out into the world, be vigilant, be aware. Look at the people around you. There's so many people that I see that have no spatial awareness, and you need to be aware of what you're doing. Don't talk super loud on the phone. Don't go out there and listen to really loud music. Be aware of what's going on around you. And also understand the consequences. There are choices that all of us get to make, and they are a reflection of who we are. And one of the big questions that came up with reality was this idea of integrity. She felt that she owed the American people this truth, and that was why she did it. And is this a point of pride for a lot of us, that we do things because we think it's the right thing to do? And is there better ways to go about it? There was many other NSA files that she could have released, but she chose that one. So there are always ways that we are filtering information out. She felt that that was the most important, and unfortunately the US government did not agree with her, and she had to face the consequences of that. Among other whistleblowers, there has been other companies in the news right now that talk about whistleblowers and how many of them have mysteriously died. There is consequences to the choices that we make, and there is a point of great integrity to be questioned at all of these decisions. If you are a person who is working for a company and you're asked to do something shady or questionable, do you do it? Do you do it to get the raise, to keep your job? You don't know what's out there. You don't have another job lined up. You could get fired if you don't do this. Do you do it? Or do you stand with the integrity of being a good person? Or do you stand with this idea of, I just need to get by? And is there an integrity in that as well? And that's a question that we have to ask ourselves. What does it mean to me to be a good person and to have values? And if you don't have values, then what are you actually living for? What do you stand for? And if you stand for nothing, you can fall for anything. And that is a great deal of what people are doing. They're falling for this news source and that news source because they don't have their own sense of understanding of themselves. And if you are ever asked by somebody to share information or to do something sneaky, what do you do? How do you face it? And the reality is you might lose your job either way. Whether you do it or not, you could lose your job. Whether you've never done anything to this company or you've done something for this company, even if you have, it doesn't guarantee you your position there. So at the end of the day, doing the stuff that keeps you from getting hurt is the most important. And to be a good person means that you're doing good for others as well. If you are given a position of power, not to abuse it. And that is what we see with a lot of people. Driving a car is a really big power that we are allowed to have. Being a politician, being a director, being a person that makes decisions on behalf of other people and ourselves is a really important power that we all get to have and that we have over our own lives. So there's certain powers that you might have. You might be a boss at your job, and you might say, well, there's people above me that are telling me to do certain things. And it's up to you to decide if you're going to follow through and do them or not. Or are you going to take the matters into your own hands and go to a news source and reveal to them what is the middle that you should be in? What is the reality of the situation? And if we can learn anything from what reality did, it is that it is not an easy choice to make. And oftentimes when we do make decisions without understanding the full consequences, and sometimes you won't understand the full consequences until you do something, it is hard to maneuver in this world with those. And it is those who have a lot of money, who have a lot of power over industries and people, that often get to make decisions and not feel the depths of those consequences. But if you are somebody who doesn't want to follow in those footsteps, there are people who have power who don't abuse it, and we can be those people too. You have power over your own life. You might have power over an animal or a child or an employee, or maybe it's just your own life and you get to have power over the person who you communicate with on a daily basis at the grocery store or at the library. You have power, and trust comes with that power. The power that you have over in your life is in the trust you have in yourself. If you are in a situation where you don't understand what's going on and you look back and you're like, wow, that could have gone a lot worse, sit with that feeling. There is multiple times where I've trusted somebody else and it ended up fine enough, but it could have been very different. And when I think of that, it really makes me wonder, like, well, what would I have done if that did happen? And is there any way for me to work on that right now? And at the end of the day, you just don't know what someone's going to do next or who they're going to be, but you have to accept that your truth is yours and no one else can force you to have one or to take something on. What happened to Reality is just about an American story as you can get. She thought she was doing the right thing and she will suffer the consequences for it, but she is also the reason why we even knew about Russian interference in the US presidential election. If you watch the movie, let me know down below if you've seen it or if you've heard about the case or what you think should have happened. The Espionage Act is an important one. There is people who are working and scheming, and was it used justly in this moment in time? And there are certain things that we pledge to, and should we breach them when things like this are happening? And it's a difficult question to answer, and it is one that we will continue to go to. What does it mean to be a person of integrity, to be a person of power, to not abuse it? How do you not abuse your power when you have it? And how can you share information when you think it's right? These are not answers that come easily, and they are not questions that are shared easily. But let me know what you think. And we'll continue to talk about this. There are many movies and many events that are going on in the world that we can learn from and that we can ask questions about. And sometimes you can't actually know the answer, but even asking a question might get you a little bit closer. So let me know what you think about Reality and her story and the movie if you've seen it. And we'll talk soon. Thank you.